Hello and welcome to my talk today, Boost Your Social. So basically I'm going to be looking at different ways, sort of tips, tricks, advice, and also looking at the different features of 4 platforms to hopefully give you a little boost, some ideas, some new things that you might not have thought about, or even just some justification of what you're doing is right. So yes, welcome to my talk. My name is Kerry Ferguson and I am from Gwe Cymru Webcyf in Aberystwyth, Wales. So very quickly look at an outline for today's talk. We're just going to look through social media goals, general rules for social media that I give to my clients. I'm going to look at the different features and sort of options that we've got on these 4 different platforms here. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Stories as well. And that's it. So hopefully you'll come away by the end of this with some general ideas and rules that you want to follow. An idea about where to go with your goals, and then also just having had a look at all those different features that are available to you as businesswomen. So, social media goals are really important. This is something I always say, to be successful on social media, you need to have a strategy, and a strategy needs goals. What I always recommend is that you have short-term and long-term goals. They can work alongside each other, or perhaps your short-term goals will help you reach your long-term goals. But whatever the way you do it, however you go about it, they will help shape what you do on social media. So what should your goals answer? And I like to keep things simple. Who, what, why? So, who are you doing this for? What are you trying to promote? What are you doing? And why are you doing it? I think it's really important that your goals do answer those questions personally, because they just help make sure that your goals are right for your business and where you want to be going in the future, whether that is next month or in 5 years' time. So, for example, it might be something like, why are you using social media for business? Is it for brand awareness? Are you there to offer support to your customers? Are you there to sell items off your shop? Who do you want to target? The more specific you can be, the better, although I know it is quite a difficult one to do, but the more specific you are with your target audience, the better. And what does that target audience want? Because without having these ideas in your head, you can't build that community or that audience around your business. Write them down and go back to them every now and again, because they change. You might find that something goes really well and your business turns off in a different direction. That certainly happened for us a couple of years ago. So you have to re-look at your goals quite frequently and make sure that everything that you're doing online, all of the effort you're putting into your marketing, aligns with those goals. But a top tip, don't get too obsessed with them either. It's important to keep your social media social. It's important to keep your content varied. And I think if you concentrate too much on your goals sometimes, it can become very focused and very goal-centric, which won't work. But you just have to keep them in mind to help you just shape what it is that you're doing on a weekly or monthly basis. Okay, so let's just go through my top 10 general social media rules. So this is for every single platform. Number 1, make the most of functions and features. So that would be things like jobs or appointment sections on Facebook, but also the different features that you've got on Instagram, perhaps in the stories, like stickers, GIFs, music, things like that. Don't duplicate content across social at the same time. So what I mean by this is, don't post exactly the same thing on all the different platforms at exactly the same time. Bear in mind that you have a different audience for every single platform, but also that the content should be delivered in a different way as well. So I'm not saying don't use the same content. I would fully expect the same content over a period of a week or a month, but don't do it at exactly the same time. Because you will also find that your loyal followers will follow you on all the different platforms that they're on, and they don't want to be seeing exactly the same content being churned out every single day. Don't spread yourself too thin. So I get a lot of clients say to me, I've been told I must be on Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and Pinterest and YouTube, but there's absolutely no way you can do that. But also, If you find that your business is doing really well on one platform and it's struggling on others, then put that energy into the one that it's doing well on. Don't feel that you have to be on every single platform because your competition are, because they might not be doing well on any of them. But if you're able to do well on one, then that's great. Go for it. Be certain of your brand language, and also make sure that your visual branding is consistent. So what I mean by this is, if you're talking in a particular way on social media, you want to make sure that also reflects on your website and any other marketing that you do. Because you don't want that people are on your social media and then they don't recognise who you are elsewhere. There needs to be a link between them. And obviously, I think you do talk quite differently on your website, but it still needs to be, if you're very friendly and chatty on social media, it needs to be the same when you're on the website as well. Pardon me. And the same is true of your visual branding. So if you are using tools like Canva to make new graphics for your website, then you need to make sure that the language and the branding is consistent as well. And another one about consistency is to try and make sure that your usernames are consistent. If anything, just for your loyal customers so they can find you easily. But if you notice at the bottom of the slide here, we've got our username. Imagine if it was different on every single platform. How would I market that? It would be really hard to do, especially, business cards, leaflets, brochures, things like that. It's really hard. So as much as you can, try and make your usernames consistent. So here's another general social media rule. It's about posting consistently and remembering the rule of thirds when it comes to your content. So by consistently, I don't mean posting every single day at 6 o'clock. You have to find what works best for your business, what works best on that platform, and what works best for your audience. And I genuinely do think that the more time you spend on social media, the more of a gut feeling you will have for your audience and what they expect of you. So for example, on Instagram, I post once a day, but on Facebook, I post 2 or 3 times a week. Because I know that that's what my audience expect. They engage better if I do that on the different platforms than if I'm constantly posting every day on Facebook, for example. And then the rule of thirds, so you have about a third of your content would be about your business and the services or the products that you sell. A third of your content would be about industry or sector news. And then a third of your content would be about more personal, behind the scenes things. Another rule that you might also come across is the 80-20, where 80% is to do with, industry news, personal, behind the scenes, etc. And 20 is about selling your products and services. Again, I think it comes down to a bit of a gut feeling. Find out which works best for you and what you feel your audience are interacting more with. Be clever with your hashtags. So I did a talk about this a couple of weeks ago or a few weeks ago now, and I actually talked about hashtags for 30 minutes. So what I would recommend here is do a bit of hashtag research around your brand. Remember to be relevant to each post, so change your hashtags for each post, but also do a little bit of research in terms of how many hashtags on what platforms and what the general recommendations are. It is a little bit of a minefield once you start looking into it quite a lot. And like I said, I talked about it for 30 minutes, so there's a lot I could say here. If you want to find out more, let me know, and I will send you the link to the other video that I did. That's not a problem at all. Just let me know in the chat below. Number 9 on my general social media rules is avoid linking your social media platforms, and there are a few different reasons for this. If we look at example for just Facebook and Twitter, so Twitter, you have a maximum character amount per tweet, and that's 280 characters. Facebook, there's no real limit. You could write an essay and it would be fine. But if you link the two, then you would link over to Facebook, and you would link from Facebook to Twitter, and people following you on Twitter won't see the whole post, and they'll also get a link directing them to Facebook. But if they aren't on Facebook, that will just frustrate them. And then likewise, if you're sharing from Instagram with 30 hashtags over to Facebook who don't recommend more than 3, you're going to affect your reach. But you might also annoy your customers because they can see that you're just sharing the same content over. There's loads of different reasons why you shouldn't do it. And it comes back as well to number 3. If you haven't got the time to put into creating different content for different platforms, or even just rewording it for different platforms, then perhaps consider that you might be spreading yourself a little bit too thin. And finally, right at the end, and this follows through to absolutely everything that you do online, if this is the one thing that you take away, please let it be this one. Be authentic, okay? And it's not just, I know it's a bit of a buzzword, but really, it really does come down to this. The more authentic and real you are on social media, the more you will succeed. Be personal, share your ethos, your business ethos, the things that drive you, your passion, behind the scenes. Share all of that, because people want to see it. They want to see the humans behind the logo, and there's no better way than being authentic. Okay, so I am going to fly through this, because what I wanted to basically do in this talk, Boost Your Social, I wanted to show the different features and elements that every platform has got to help you boost your social, and to basically show you the potential that it has. So Facebook, we've got Facebook pages for the businesses. This is great because it works excellently as a point of reference, and it has loads of features. Absolutely loads of features, some of which I will touch on as we go down here now. But more importantly as well, it actually gets pulled through by a lot of the search engines. So if someone searches specifically for your business, it would get pulled through, for example, by Google. They'll pull through the reviews, they'll pull through your contact information. You will actually rank for it as well. It'll rank in the search engine results. So it is important to have a Facebook page. Within the Facebook page, you have quite a lot of different things that we can be doing. So we've got a call to action, which is just below your cover photo, and that could be something like call me, email me, visit my shop, visit my website, loads of different options. We've got a shop feature, we've got an appointments feature, we've got a jobs feature, and we've got an events feature. So there's 4 different things here that your Facebook page will enable you to do, and they all come with their own excellent merits. So if you are selling online, I would highly recommend you look at the shop feature. There is a charge, I believe. I don't have a shop myself, so I don't know entirely, but I think there's a commission rate because you can now sell through Facebook as well. If you've already got a website, double check the platform, because you can actually link the two and integrate Facebook Shop with your website now. So anything you sell on Facebook, it will automatically change the stock and things like that. Appointments and jobs work in a very similar way. You basically can advertise that you have appointments, and someone can click and accept the appointment, and then they come in. I think this will be a great one for hairdressers, beauticians, maybe boutique shops that are offering appointment-only slots now because of coronavirus. And it's free. Facebook's offering this for free. Anything you can get for free, you have to take it, right? And the jobs works in a similar way. You can advertise a job, and then you can tell Facebook that you want to have applicants answer questions or send in a CV. You can let these applicants know via Messenger if they've got an interview or not. There's a whole dashboard within the job section where you can actually make notes against people, how well they did they get to interview, did you reject them, have you let them know, etc. And it's free. And then finally, the events feature here as well. I absolutely love this because one of the things it does is gives me insights per event, which is invaluable to me, because if I'm going in for funding with a different hat on my head, I can tell them, look, this many people saw this event, this many people said they were coming, this many people engaged, here's where they're from, here's their age brackets and things like that. There's just a whole host of data that gives you. But also, you can advertise online events, and you can now also charge for events on Facebook as well. So we've got ticketed events, which is great. So if you're in that industry and you're doing events or webinars and things like that, I would definitely utilise the events section on Facebook without a doubt. So I'm just going to hop back up the bullet points a little bit to groups. So this, I feel, runs alongside Facebook pages. The group section is huge on Facebook, but they are also really pushing it as well because they want to grow communities. I think for the past maybe 18 months, Facebook's really been pushing this community. They want you to build a community, and they want the community to be in their platform. Okay, so there's loads of different things you can do within groups. You can schedule posts. You can go live in a group, you can go live with someone else in a group, you can get insights from the group, you can get insights per post in the group, Pages can join groups, you know, there's loads of different things. But I think what it actually does at the end of the day is it creates a safe space for your community around your business to interact. And I'm sure you're probably all part of some groups, so you will have seen this. But I would definitely implore you, if you can, to think of different ways that you can maybe create a group around your brand. Even if it was just for a select few and you're not aiming to get thousands, go for it. I definitely recommend that you do that. And finally, right at the bottom, an underutilised feature I feel on Facebook is the Messenger tool. Especially with Facebook pages, there's loads of automated features, so I would definitely have a look through the different settings that the Messenger has got. But things like automated replies, so if someone inquires, it would send back saying perhaps, "Hi, thanks for your inquiry, someone will get back to you soon." There's also things where you can tell Facebook when you're going to be away, so obviously outside of office hours, and the automated reply could say, "We're away from our desk right now, but we'll get back to you tomorrow." Another really cool one is if someone lands on your Facebook page, the Messenger could automatically chat and open up conversation. So it could say, "Hi, I've noticed you're on my page, would you like to ask a question?" So there's loads of automated settings that it's got, and I would definitely recommend, in the day of age where people are expecting quick conversation, fast replies and fast interaction, is that you utilise the Messenger as much as you can. So that was a whistle-stop tour on how to sort of boost the most of what you're doing on Facebook at the moment. Let's do a similar thing for Twitter. Now, if you are a Twitter user, as you will know, it's a very fast platform. So because it's so fast, everything is short and sweet and snappy. The news feed flies really quickly. If you're following over about 50 people, it's really fast. So because of that, it's important to be social. It's important to be there often. I'm not saying it's important to tweet often, but it's important to be there. Either tweeting, talking, conversing with people, or retweeting as well. And because it's so fast, if you are tweeting, you want people to stop scrolling when they are going through the newsfeed. So you need to make your content interesting. And one of the really good things that I like to do, and I think this works very well, is to use the mighty GIF. There are thousands of GIFs out there, so if you can use this, definitely do it as a way of sort of making your content stoppable. Twitter loves the hashtag, but don't go overboard. I would recommend 3 for a general tweet, and you can also include that within the content as well. Now, I talked about underutilised features over on Facebook, but I think the photo tagging is one that people don't do on Twitter. So if you add a photo to a tweet, you can actually tag people in that photo. So rather than using up your tweeting space, you can tag people who you think should know about what you're talking about or who might be interested. You can tag them in that photo, they will get a notification, and then it will say to them, "You've been tagged in this photo," and they can reply or retweet or like it, whatever. Now, another really good feature on Twitter, which will really help you with your Twitter game and your strategy, is the trending section. Now, you can actually tailor this to your own interests. So when you set up your profile, so for example, I've set up a profile here in the UK, it will automatically be whatever's trending in the United Kingdom. But you can actually change that. So I could change it to, I want to know what's trending in digital or in technology or in science. And you will only see those trends, and then you can interact with what's trending within your field. So I think that's a really important thing to do if you are using Twitter for business, is to make sure that that's set up as optimized as you can, so that you can actually interact with those people that are talking in your field and having these conversations in there. And finally, an amazing tool on Twitter that, again, I think a lot of people don't actually understand, is the lists section. So what this basically allows you to do is to create a list of people you follow, and you can then filter into that list. So for example, you're following 500 people, but you've decided there are 50 of them are digital women, so you want to just follow them. So what you can do is create a list, put those 50 women in that list, and then you can actually just look at that list on a separate tab and then interact with those. So you're not losing what they're saying in your main feed, but you're able to filter to them in a different feed and interact with them. So I do this, for a good example of it actually, for my clients. So I think it's quite important to support my clients constantly. We are a service-based business, so I like to be seen, not be seen, but I like to be interacting with them online, so that they know that I'm here if they ever want to talk or if they want to pop in. So I've created a list on Cambrian Web's Twitter for my clients. So if I just want to pop on, I can say, what are my clients up to? And there I go. Okay, whistle stop tour on Twitter there. Hopefully you took some things away. Now then, moving on to Instagram. So when it comes to Instagram, I think it's always important right from the off is just to make sure that your profile is set up right. So there are 3 different types of profile: personal, business or creator. They each come with their pros and cons. If you're not too sure, then have a Google and see what they are. Business, for example, you get insights, but you might not get the music setting. It all depends on different things. Have a Google and see what they are. You can swap very easily between the two. I've tried the creator and it worked very well for me, but I couldn't use a scheduling tool with that creator account, so I had to downgrade to a business. So there's different pros and cons for them. And then make sure that your profile is optimized and including the highlights section. So when someone lands on your profile, they're going to be faced with the very first screenshot, which would be your profile photo, your bio, your name, your contact information, your highlights, and then also maybe the first 6 or 3 grid items, so posts that you've put in your grid. So you need to look at that and think, is that optimized as much as it can be? Is it interesting? Am I saying what I want it to say? Is it a good hook for people? Use emojis, make the highlights branded, because you can change the covers on there. Use a really good professional, or, you know, not good professional, but use a professional profile photo or one that you feel is what you're trying to get across as a business owner. Remember to use hashtags. So a 12% increase engagement with just one hashtag. You can use up to 30. Some people get away with 3 and they find that that gives them just as much engagement as 30. I think you have to find your gut feeling. Personally, I go for around 11 to 13. It tends to be what I feel. I don't want to use too many, but I try and pick ones that are quite specific and relevant to what I'm posting. And then avoid using the same ones. Comes back to that relevance thing that I just mentioned. Instagram wants you to post hashtags that are relevant to what you're talking about, and you can't be talking about exactly the same thing in everything you post. So you have to make sure that your hashtags are relevant and you're not using the same ones. There's also an element of, if you are using the same ones too often, that you could be perhaps spammy, so be careful of that. The algorithm on Instagram, so this is all about post and running. I don't know if you've heard of that term before, but I think perhaps in the old days on social media, you could just post and not engage with anyone and it would do fine. Whereas these days, there's definitely a big push on engaging with your client base and your customers and your audience, and also the people that you follow as well. And the Instagram algorithm is on it for this. So don't post and run. If you're going to post, then you need to make sure you've got time to actually engage people on there as well. Talk to people who are commenting, go to your feed, check through some stories, have a look, see what other people are up to. Basically show Instagram that actually you like the platform and that you're on there and you're spending time on there. That's what they want to see. This comes back to my general top tip earlier. Use the features. They're here to help you stand out, and there's so many of them on Instagram, especially when it comes through to the stories. Long content works really well when you're posting your captions on the grid, but if your image is strong enough, then it's not always necessary. So, I'm going to tell you that long content works really well, and then you'll tell me I've just seen someone post a sentence and it worked very well. It's true, but you might find that actually giving that story and a little bit more of a personal insight will work really well for you, and that comes through with the long content. But what I would say is, if you are doing that, is to make sure it's formatted well and it doesn't look like a block of text. So use paragraphs and emojis. And then themed or good-looking feeds do very well, and I know this from experience myself. If you can get a grid, your grid looking good, themed and tidy, then your profile generally will do better than if it looks sporadic. If you're not sure what I mean by this, then Google Instagram theme ideas and it will show you some grid ideas to highlight what I mean by this. So it could be things like just using monotone pictures, it could be things like using pastel colours, but generally the whole thing looks very smooth and very, not branded, but consistent. If the aim of the game is to really increase your following, then Instagram tells you should post once a day if you've got less than 1,000 followers, and that does include weekends as well. I can tell you from experience that I post once a day, and yes, it does increase my followers quicker than if I post 3 or 4 times a week, but it has to come in with, what have you got time for and what do you think your audience want? And you might also find that actually you put more effort into stories than you do into the grid, which is fine. And very briefly at the bottom here, if you are selling online, did you know that Instagram has a shop feature too? And you can tag your products either in the grid or in the stories. So if you didn't know that, do a little bit of research and see how you can work this into your marketing. It is something I would highly recommend because we already know that I can't remember the statistics off the top of my head, but we already know that people do discover and they shop on Instagram and Facebook. So if this is what you're doing, if you're selling online, then I would highly recommend looking at that. Okay, so very, very quickly then, looking at stories, they last 24 hours, so they vanish after that, unless you save them into the highlights on Instagram. But they are huge, and they will soon be everywhere, okay? Instagram, the home of the story, 61% of your friends will watch a story, but only 39% will check your feed. Now that's quite a big difference. They're not so popular on Facebook, but they are on the rise. They also exist over on WhatsApp, and if you didn't know, Facebook own WhatsApp, so that's probably why. And they are on the way with Twitter and LinkedIn. And from what I understand, they will also vanish after 24 hours, so it'll have a similar sort of way of working. So some top tips from me when it comes to stories. Play around, have fun. They are the window into your business, but they're not meant to be as curated as what else you're posting. So have a bit of fun with it. Explore all of the different features and functions that they give you, especially on Instagram, and there are new ones coming all the time. There's loads of different tools like pens, stickers, boomerangs, live videos, drawings, filters, lots and lots of things. Remember that people don't always listen with the sound on, so if you're doing a video, I would recommend either using an app that will subtitle for you, or typing out like a short summary of what that video is. Bear in mind the rules of content, so even though they're not meant to be as curated, you do need to remind people that you're actually a business, and you need to make money somehow, of course. So every now and again just drop in a few different things just to remind people that that's what you're doing and this is your livelihood. If you can, go live. I know it's daunting, but it is really, really good. And Instagram and Facebook will tell all of your followers that you're live, and hopefully they'll get involved with you. So if you're comfortable doing that, try it. If not, why don't record yourself first and just get used to being in front of the camera and get used to talking to it. And just remember, have fun. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Social media. Be social and have fun. So the final platform that I wanted to talk about, which I think is quite important actually for us digital women, because I feel like personal brand is very much on the rise. I've got a company and a personal brand on all the social media platforms, and I definitely get just as much engagement between the two. So LinkedIn, I think for this reason, super important. If you're on LinkedIn, perhaps you used it years ago and you found it very corporate and stuffy. It's changed, I promise you that. Microsoft bought it in, I think, 2018, and it's a lot more sociable now, a lot more networking and relationships rather than stuffy corporate business boasting. Let's call it that. So LinkedIn, make sure that everything is optimized. Keep it relevant to what you're actually selling now. I realised that I had a hockey certificate from when I was 14 on mine. No one cares because they're coming to me for websites and social media. No one's going to care that I could play hockey. I doubt I could now. So really, cut out the weeds, trim it down, optimize it to what's relevant to what you're wanting to do now. If you can, build up the recommendations and endorsements. Explore the connections often, follow people and engage with them. So join in the groups, start conversations, and remember to always give something back. Be useful, share resources, share your knowledge. You know, what have you learned today? Have you come across something amazing that your network would be interested in? Because it's all about co-marketing at the end of the day, isn't it? We've got to work with people to help build up our own marketing and our own network. And definitely make use of the insights and analytics for your profile as well as per post, which I think is great on LinkedIn. So you can really see what your audience are after off you, especially if you are trying to sell a service. And you can really see what's more popular when you post it and how you post it. And finally, the search function is invaluable on LinkedIn. What I will say is I've actually held a webinar about LinkedIn that went on for an hour and a half. So for me to cover this in 3 minutes is exceptional. So if you are looking at LinkedIn and you haven't used it a lot, definitely do some Googling, do some research. There will be loads of videos on YouTube to help you out. Feel free to drop me a message and I will send you as much information as I can. It's not a problem at all. But it is an invaluable tool if this is where you want to build up your personal brand and your personal profile. Okay. So my last slide, conclusions, key takeaways. Be social, be authentic, don't forget to be consistent when it comes to your brand and your brand language. Use all of the features available to you and remember to go back and check often because there's things coming up that are new all the time. Vary your content, the rule of thirds, and my motto, which I will share with you, and you can take it away with you if you like. Be the guru. So show people that you are the expert in your field. And if you can do that, you will increase your credibility, you will increase your authority, you will increase your trust, and that all helps towards the end of the day, doesn't it? Getting that new business in, improving your network, making those connections. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you took something away. I will have been here live chatting away to you in the bottom, but if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch. You can connect with me via the speaker dashboard and enjoy the rest of the Digital Women Conference.